and his mother doesn't allow me into his house, forces me to sit outside, spits on me, calling me the equivalent of the N-word, Shudra, which means I was a lower caste person. And I never heard this word. I was a 4-year-old innocent kid. And gives me water in a different cup. You know, it's a disgusting looking cup because I was not worthy.
This is what sets you apart from everyone else. You just blew my mind again. I wanted to ask you. Oh, a shout out to Mr. Walker, by the way, the chemistry teacher, and to your great grandparents. A huge shout out wherever they are. I wanted to ask Dr. Shiva, what was the turning point in your life when you realized that the world that is being presented to us is not what it really is, and that these people up top are not really our friends? Was there a turning point, or was this a gradual thing that happened?
No, I think there were two important turning points, and they were very, very formative periods. And one was when I was 4 years old, and one was when I was 12 years old. Then another time was when I was, I think, 13 years old. You know, there were these three very, very compelling times. You know, you remember them like yesterday. And as I share this with you guys, everyone should understand that each person needs to intersect their personal journey. You have to sometimes sit alone and think about that you're part of a long movie, a very long movie that goes back eons and eons. And right now we're living like one little frame of that, but you must self-reflect, understand where you are and what you brought to you this moment. In fact, why you're watching this, you know? Why are you watching this? What compels you to want to keep listening to this? Because there's something in you that intersects with my journey. So that's the first thing, right? But if you reflect on that, for me, it was vivid as yesterday. You know, I'm 60 now, 56 years ago. I've shared this story. I'm playing, you know, ball, and I go to a friend of mine's home who I thought was my friend. This is in Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
And his mother doesn't allow me into his house, forces me to sit outside, spits on me, calling me the equivalent of the N-word, Shudra, which means I was a lower caste person. And I never heard this word. I was a 4-year-old innocent kid.
Wow.
And gives me water in a different cup. You know, it's a disgusting looking cup because I was not worthy. And that's when I went home that day, I asked my mom, what is this? And she said, oh, we're from the lower caste. And then she explained to me how they would treat her when she was growing up. How when she went to the well, they would shoo her like she had leprosy or something. Okay? So that was a very compelling moment. It affected me deeply because I thought this, you know, you're a kid, oh, this is my best friend. You see? The second incident was after I came to the United States in 1970, right? You know, 1970, I was 7. And then part of this is related because that's when, you know, we moved to Paterson, New Jersey. And this is in the era of 1970, where there's the Vietnam War taking place, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You see, you know, butchery on TV every day in terms of soldiers, because in those days, before the censors got in, journalists were actually able to go behind enemy lines and show you what was going on, all the bloodshed, people's arms getting blown off, right? All that kind of stuff. And then in 5 years later, after being in the United States in 1975, I went back to India, back to our small village. And that's when I saw, oh my God, like unless you see contrasts, you say, wow, there's people with no shoes here. My aunt lives in a little hut. My grandparents, you know, work 16-hour days. My great grandfather's out in the fields with leeches on his feet, working in the rice fields, right? So, and then you realize that I will be going back within 24 hours back to this other world. And it's like a different world. These people have none of those comforts, none of those access to education. And that was a very compelling moment. When I was 12, I was leaving India in that village in one of those old caboose trains, looking through the glass, through the window. My grandparents are crying with great love for me. not knowing if they'd see me again, right? Because it was very expensive to go back and forth. And that's when I realized that I should do something to resolve these serious inequities, which didn't make sense because India at one point had been such a wealthy country. How could it be raped and these people have nothing? So that made me start wanting to understand this. You see this injustice. As a child, you have a deep sense of empathy. You don't forget about these things, you see?
Yeah.
And during that period, when I was young, I remember my dad telling me stories about peasants in villages taking up arms against landowners. And I said, why are they doing that? Oh, and my dad said, well, they don't have any food. They're living with nothing. And I said, oh, that's a good thing. And his friend was listening, goes, oh, your son's a communist. This is not a good thing. My dad said, no, he just feels that way now. He'll get over it. But I haven't gotten over it. I never got over it. I never could accept this seeming injustice. I can't accept the fact that during the pandemic, 600 billionaires made $2.3 trillion. While many Americans were taking antidepressants, they got screwed over, they lost jobs. That never makes any sense. I think you have to be a fucking robot and an inhuman to accept all this nonsense. You have to be a robot to accept Trump's lies, Biden's lies, Booby Kennedy's lies, all of these people's lies. Our movement is for humans. And if you want to be humans, then you better go get one of these bumper stickers. Like right now, go to Shiva for President and put it on your back of your windshield. Because we have finally a movement by the people, for the people, of the people. If you really want to walk the walk, if you simply want to hear my words and get entertained and say, wow, there's a guy out there, he's great, that's fine. But that's not what I want. I want you guys to get off your butts.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to get on the ballot in every state. You guys have an opportunity to help us to do that. Yes. And that's what we need. We need you guys to take action. And if you want to take action, do that. If you want to really become a human being. But if you want to be a robot, which is what they want to be, keep watching, just watch this, but don't do anything, right?
No.
Then, I don't want to be a Joe Rogan. I don't want to be a fucker Carlson entertaining you. I want you to get off your butts and act. That's what this is about. You can go to Shiva for President, go to Truth, Freedom, Health. Learn, become part of this movement because it's for you. You're not doing me a favor. It's for you. Yeah. So I want to just play this quick video for people, if that's all right.
Okay? Yes, please.
Yep. I don't think you'll hear it on your end. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my screen and I'm going to share it from your end. Okay.
Can I just
allow our country to be taken over from within? And the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that. And that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people first with understanding what a system is, the dynamics of all systems that affect nature. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Truth, freedom, health. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they'll let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers, completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You've got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is the not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is the not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you, the Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something, or Robert Kennedy, scumbags. Or you're going to follow some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. We're building a bottoms-up movement, and that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game, and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. You know, Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum where people can go to truthfreedomhealth.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. The Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on truthfreedomhealth.com, so people can sign in, they can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there, but we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com.